Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition, episode number 3 of the Birding Show. So we're just going to see if it's on live. Welcome everybody. John, welcome. I don't know where you on tonight. You always tend to be watching from somewhere random. I'll put my sound off there. Where are you watching from tonight?
Hi everybody.
And watching, broadcasting from.
Yes, yeah, I don't know. Hi everybody and welcome. It's good to see everybody here again. I'm just have one or two things on my side. Forgive me, but myself broadcasting from home. I think yesterday I was in the bustling metropolis of, but that is thankfully not the case tonight. So no, it's all here in Joburg. But an exciting episode planned for tonight, I think. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, some big news we're sharing tonight, and obviously big news that almost everyone's going to talk about, which we're going to talk about a lot on the show tonight. Also, I think the episode's probably going to be mostly about that. Got some cool guests also. Daniel Engelbrecht, fantastic birder, and then a little bit later we'll be joined by Dr. Sue Tonin from Mouse-Free Marion. So we've got some really cool show tonight. Can we ask everyone, if you're watching live, if you can do us a favor? One way you can help us get the word out about this show, tag someone, share it with someone, help us spread the news as far and wide as we can. We put this on every month. We hope this adds value to the birding community, but yeah, just share it as far and wide as you can. And we're going to ask you also tonight to share some stories and photos and put them on there, some of the best photos and stories that are shared. We would love to share your stories. Maybe in the meantime, just maybe if you want to just share about any birding that you've done in the last month or so. I know it has been a full month since our last show, but just share any birding that's happened over the last month, any birding adventures you've been on. I know for myself, I did a bird club outing to Cumberland Nature Reserve, and was really a fantastic reserve. If you're in KZN ever, it's one of those reserves that's really worth doing a visit to. They unfortunately don't do day visits, but the accommodation is very reasonable to stay there. It was quite hot, but it was quite, a lot of times there's been a lot of bad publicity about bird clubs. But the one thing that I loved about the bird club was the opportunity just to take people along and just to share knowledge. And, we were like, one of the birds which flew over us was a rock martin, and they got those little diamonds under the tail. Really, one of my favorite martins. Like I was saying to someone, martins are almost the LBJs of the skies. They're like these drab birds, but pointing out those little diamonds on the bottom of the tail to someone, straight away you actually help someone to grow in their bird knowledge. And I think that's one of the awesome things about the club. So John, what sort of birding have you done over the last month or so?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I've had some. I want to say it's been relatively quiet. I've only really started getting back into the field over the past 2 weeks, and of course I've been doing some environmental impact assessments of our faunal surveys. So nothing ridiculously exciting, but mostly along the Mpumalanga escarpment, eastern Mpumalanga escarpment, and still some really cool birds. I must be honest with you, Adam, it's I can't complain. It sounds bad. I'm sitting here. I'm not complaining. Let that just be reflected. But yeah, it's sort of your typical half-felt grassland birding. Probably the highlights are good numbers of pink-billed larks at the moment. And really cool is that obviously in our area, in these sort of high altitudinal grasslands, especially in Mpumalanga, Gauteng, southeast parts of Gauteng, and specifically the southwest parts of Mpumalanga and southern Mpumalanga, is the cranes that start moving into the area in winter. So these birds tend to spend their time, or their summer rather, down in the Free States mostly. And in winter, they then start moving back into our area. So what's really cool is that just 2 days ago, I had some blue cranes, my first blue cranes for the season. And I know another one of our areas where we're focusing around at the moment, I think the guys had like almost 200 blue cranes just in one afternoon. So it's been really, really, really incredible just seeing the signs of winter starting to come into play. So yeah, I've been around, Adam. It's been good. It's been very good. But I think I don't know if you're happy. Shall we move into some of the rare bird?
Just really very quickly, there might be people that know this. We've often speak about these environmental assessments, and there's a lot of people are doing them at the moment. And I know there might be stuff you can't share around it, but what does that actually involve? Because, is it just birding for 10 days or whatever? What does it actually involve? And yeah, just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's really it's amazing. I say it's amazing in that I get to spend a lot of my time outdoors in the field. Essentially, what one does is our whole purpose is to go into a proposed area for some or other kind of planned renewable resource project that looks to go ahead, be it solar or wind. And we go in there and we basically conduct avifaunal assessments, avifaunal being the smart word for bird watching. Go in there and we record as much data as possible in line with certain data protocol, collection protocol. And it's long hours in the field from dawn to dusk. And there's certain priority species which we need to obviously collect as much data as possible on, which priority species are at higher risk of collision or death or population impact in the event that one of these renewable energy farms were to go up. So that's essentially what we do, is we go out into the field for prolonged periods of time and we collect as much data over each season. So autumn, winter, spring, and summer. And that ultimately gets compiled into one singular report. And that then gets included into an environmental impact assessment. And a lot of people look at us and say, oh, well, you know, you're going out there to make sure that you don't want the projects to go ahead. But that's not the case. We're going out there to make sure that the best possible solution can be reached, and that obviously here in South Africa we have this massive energy crisis, and it's our job to make sure that we find a happy medium. Obviously we don't want the birds, our main priority is the birds, we don't want the bird populations to suffer, and so we need to make sure that we find and design and come up with and suggest the best mitigation factors possible for developers to look into so that the bird populations don't get negatively impacted. That is what we do. So essentially, we're out there, we're recording, collecting the data, but we're actually involved in a sphere of conservation, because our job is to make sure the birds have a voice in this entire development process. So yeah, it's great. We get to spend a lot of time in the field, and it's good fun, and it's hard work, but yeah, ultimately it's great to know that the data we're collecting is being put to good cause.
Yeah, so John, I think we got some guests waiting. So I think before we get there, maybe just chat about some of the rare birds that have been around for the last month or so. I know it's been a little bit quiet. I mean, I know on our side in Toti, which is really, Toti's been cooking. I mean, we've got the Eurasian oyster catchers are hopping between two of the estuary mouths, which is really awesome. I mean, there's just so many really good birds. I know in Toti, not rarities, but we've just picked up one of the species that wasn't always around, that wasn't that common, was magpie mannequin. But one of our local Baba Vango, they've been seen there. Another then at Toti Bird Park, which is just across the road. There's some young ones there, so it's been really awesome. And then the other day, the guys got mangrove kingfisher at a Baba Vango also. We often get them when they pass through, and it's been amazing, because the truth is that this little bird park is not in a great state. I mean, one of the things of our local government, sadly, but the birding is always fantastic. And it's amazing how these birds in that little park are so resilient. So you want to just chat through some of the rarities over the last month or so?
Yeah, so like you said, Adam, it's been a little bit of a quiet one, I must be honest, but it's expected. I mean, we're going into autumn now. Obviously, winter is a little bit of a tricky time for us insofar as rarities are concerned. But having said that, some of our biggest rarities tend to turn up at this time of year in the start of winter. Why? Because birds are now busy preparing to head north. They're migrating back up to continental Europe, North Africa. They're going to go breed. They're going to spend the European summer there and go about breeding before they then return to us when we go back into summer towards the end of the year. But there is this phenomenon, which I think a lot of our viewers will know, called reverse migration. And for some or other reason, birds tend to have a bit of a short wire, and their internal compass just goes the complete opposite direction, and these birds then head due south instead of north. And so what happens is that a lot of these birds, especially birds that may hang around Central Africa and might not necessarily come down to Southern Africa, so to say, tend to have this internal glitch and find their way in South Africa. And that's what I'm saying. Some of our biggest rarities, I'm talking national giggers, first ever records for the sub-region, tend to turn up at this time of year. So needless to say, just because it's been a little bit quiet on the rarity front doesn't necessarily mean that we need to stop being vigilant and keeping our eyes peeled for something absolutely huge, because you need to expect the unexpected. So insofar as actual rarities at the moment, the stuff of note I've got is probably a Franklin's gull, which turned up just the other day at Stillby in the Western Cape. So hopefully some of our Western Cape viewers have managed to head through and pick up with a Franklin's gull, obviously a species which is more familiar with America. So he's obviously jumped the Atlantic, but a great bird nonetheless. And this one, I think, actually has some of its black head still remaining. So it's looking really nice. And if you haven't gone to see it, head over and go and find it. Definitely worthwhile. Red phalarope, birds hanging around in the Northern Cape, of all places. Britstown in the Northern Cape. So that's quite a little record. Again, with red phalarope, they're very weird. They turn up in the most odd places. And it's farm dams 9 out of 10 in the middle of nowhere. So here, case in point, Northern Cape, it is photographed at a dam along the N12 north of Britstown in the Northern Cape. Can you believe it? So yeah, absolutely mega stuff for the Northern Cape listers. Up into the Watergauteng region, we've had square-tailed nightshark reported actually by Jandre Verster. Obviously, those familiar with the birding life knows Jandre plays an integral part in the birding life as an ambassador and team member to an extent. So well done, Jandre. Lark-like buntings hanging around as well, also around Zaagheldrift Road, the famed Zaagheldrift Road, which is half obviously in Limpopo, half in northwest and part of the wider Gauteng region, so very much accessible for wider Gauteng listers. And then red-footed falcons, obviously hanging around in drips and drabs amidst large Amma falcons. So Tristan Spurway, also familiar with the birding life, many a podcast done with him, reported a red-footed falcon at Papsfontein, and another one also recorded in Zaagheldrift as well. So Zaagheldrift, Gomo floodplain seem to be the most active around Watergauteng at the moment. So yeah, if you have a gap, I would suggest heading over there. And also an annual bird, not necessarily a rarity, a difficult bird to come across, is a river warbler. Now is the time for river warbler. There are vocal birds along Zaagheldrift Road, Risterwinter, Rudderplaats. There was even one caught in the Pretoria National Botanical Gardens the other day as well. So, and that was by ringers from BirdLife Northern Gauteng. So river warbler is around. It's a highly sought after localized Stella species, Locustella being the genus. Locustella, obviously, because they have this very locust or insect-like call, drawn out insect-like grasshopper call. Fantastic birds, very elusive, very difficult, and they only call for about a week or 2 weeks before they then start departing north to continental Europe. So if you are in need of that, now is the time. But Adam, insofar as rarities is concerned, those are the big ones. Yeah, it's been relatively quiet, but yes, crossing fingers, we're going to find something huge in the coming days.
Well, talking about things that present possibilities of spotting something huge, obviously earlier this week, big news broke out, pandemonium in the birding community. So really exciting. John, I'm going to hand over to you. You're going to share a bit about that. And we've got our special guest, Daniel Engelbrecht. Welcome to the show, Daniel. I think he's put his camera on. Welcome, dude. Also a regular Birding Life podcast guest, and you didn't get him back on again. He's like been a long time since he's been on, but welcome to the show, Daniel.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Yeah, it's really great to be here again. And yeah, looking forward to having a good chat with you guys.
Dan, it's really good to see you, man. It's been a minute.
It has.
All right, so yeah, guys, as Adam has said, sorry, let me just on my left here, it is just busy pulling up one of my sets of notes. So
just excuse John's fingers there. It's just a highly professional webinar, like super professional. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So yeah, I'm just I'm just busy pulling up some of my notes here. Obviously, I don't want to lead us astray. So yeah, everybody, it is with great excitement, and I'm sure you've all seen on social media this week that BirdLife South Africa has announced that we are all flocking back to Marion Island. So really, really fantastic news. Super, super excited. And an opportunity for everybody who was not on that flock 2022 and missed out on seeing the Prince Edward. Well, there we saw Prince Edward, but going down into those Marion waters, exploring a section of the Southern Oceans, even just the Southern Oceans in general, that no birder, or very few birders, should I say, ever gets an opportunity to explore. Unless you're a researcher devoted to avian research, heading down to these islands, you don't get to these waters. So the 2022 flock to Marion was one thing, and it was marketed as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it has now become a twice-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which is simply amazing. So Dan, you were on that vessel as well. I think all three of us were on that vessel. It was flippin' incredible. For those of you who don't know Dan, or who are not familiar with Dan, Dan is an incredible birder. He's a phenomenal birder. He's one of our, I sound like Donald Trump. Sorry. Dan is an incredible birder, the best birder. So he's a phenomenal guy, and probably a familiar face to most. He's one of the newer generation guides, specialist guides, bird guides, and I think Dan is definitely most likely going to be on the boat, and I'm looking forward to spending time birding alongside him. But Dan, I mean, you can attest to the fact that it was incredible. I mean, what were some of your favorite highlights?
Just before Daniel speaks, can we ask, if you are watching and you were on the previous flock, share some of your highlights. Tell us what were some of the big birds you got to see. What were some of the highlights? If you want to send some photos, we got Chris's. This is why I keep looking around. Chris is our producer on the side. So just share we'd love to just share some stories from everyone. Also, just share if you got any stories, some photos we'd love to see, and just brag about what an amazing cruise it was. So over to you, Daniels.
Yeah, no, well, thanks for the glowing intro there, John. So look, I know, flock to Marion was just absolutely incredible, and I'm very fortunate to have a long running relationship with these flocks at sea. I actually joined the first one back in 2013 when I was 10 years old, and I've got really fond memories of that trip as well, kind of standing on deck and seeing my first albatross for that matter, back in 2013, and we were back at sea again at the flock 2017, which was also spectacular. I mean, many of you who were there would remember that fantastic first morning we had, where we had a white-headed petrel and grey petrel, and some of us got light mantle albatross, all within the sub-region as well. And then we all thought that was about as good as it was going to get. And then we had flock to Marion in 2022, which was just absolutely spectacular. I mean, from my side, when people ask me, what are some of the highlights? I feel like Tristan albatross would be everyone's highlight, and I mean, rightly so. But I thoroughly enjoyed the penguins as well, personally. Seeing king penguin and the eastern rockhopper or southern rockhopper penguins, macaroni penguins all around Marion, which is just absolutely incredible. So it was really, as I said, a trip of a lifetime, and here we are chatting about flock 2025 now.
So mute your mic there, John.
Sorry.
Look, we thought we had gone deaf, dude.
Sorry. No, I was just saying it really was amazing, Dan. Like I went to that flock to the flock at sea, the one that went into literally nowhere. I recall that morning with a white-headed petrel. It was crazy. We woke up, there was albatrosses behind the ship and white-headed petrels all of a sudden as the sun had just crested the horizon. It was insane, but nothing really. And everybody sat back and we were like, well, how are we going to top this? And I don't think many people comprehended what was to come when we went down to Marion. And there was that one particular morning, it was a Thursday morning, where we could basically just see the outline of Prince Edward itself. Marion, unfortunately, was covered in a bit of weather at the time. And guys, it was, I can't even describe it. There were hundreds of, if not thousands of albatrosses around the ship at any one time. And we're not just talking like your usual shy albatross, the common stuff you get off of a pelagic trip off Cape Town. We're talking wandering albatrosses, sooty albatross, light-mantled albatross. And then just when you think the albatrosses are going absolutely crazy, the guards are busy screaming on the radio, rock up a penguin, starboard. It's insane. It is, you don't know where to look. So it's got to be one of the most incredible days, incredible moments I've experienced as a birder. So much so that I vowed to myself that day that I would add its coordinate to my series of growing bird coordinates on my arm. I've got Snow Petrel and Wilson's Bird of Paradise, and I've yet to add a coordinate from that morning of a wandering albatross onto my wrist, but it is going on there. That is how incredible that morning was. So it's insane. I mean, Dan, I don't know if you, I mean, Adam, you as well. I mean, if you managed to get most of the stuff that was called out, and that's the awesome thing to whoever is listening who was not on that vessel. There are probably going to be close on 40 guides, okay, available on the ship. BirdLife South Africa goes all out to make sure that there are enough guides on rotation around the vessel, there at the needs and the beck and call of those attending flock at specific guiding stations so that you don't miss a thing, okay? If you spend the time on the decks and you're with the guides are in contact with each other on the radio, you're not going to miss much. And even us as guides, whilst we were guiding, we still managed to connect with stuff that people were seeing on the other side of the ship because the communications were just that great and everybody was just there to help everybody. I mean, guys, were there anything that you may have missed? I mean, I've got the species list here. Dan,
I just think for me, you're talking about that morning with hundreds, if not thousands, of these wandering albatrosses just like gliding past. I was actually listening before. I actually did a post. If you actually listen, there's a Fleetwood Mac song called Albatross. If you actually listen, it's an instrumental song. But when you listen to it, you look at an image of an albatross. I can't put it here because we'll get kicked off copyright purposes. But it really, like that song almost, you can see it epitomizes. It really just, it's got like, you can almost picture an albatross with that song. But obviously when we heard Peter Harrison talking, he always like has this, the talks are amazing. And he has these almost tears in his eyes when he speaks about these albatrosses. And I was like, when I heard he does these talks before and like, now he has tears in his eyes. So, it's a bit weird. He's talking about freaking birds. But when we got to see those wandering, when I saw the first wandering albatross coming in, it was an emotional moment. Like you literally had tears in your eyes. It was like, it's probably, I've been to Kruger and I've been to, a couple of parks, not as much as you guys have been to, but I have been to some really awesome places. But hands down, it's the greatest birding experience of my life. It was absolutely insane. It's what's amazing is when you've kind of we left Cape Town for the first, I don't know how far. It was quite quiet. Things were flying past and you'd see something, there's this here, and see something flying past. But it was almost as if as you got closer to Marion, all of a sudden it just was like these birds all over. And it's absolutely, I don't know how it compares, for example, to doing like a pelagic off of Cape Town or something, but to see that many birds, it's got the widest wingspan in the world. To see a bird like that up close was, like I said, emotional, absolutely amazing. And it's something that even if you're not a birder and you're watching this, it's something that you've got to experience once in your life. It's almost like a life-changing moment, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Dan, what was your, did you manage to get everything? Did you, especially on that chaotic morning?
Yeah. So, well, just to add on to what you guys were saying, I chatted to many people on the cruise, and there were a bunch of really experienced birders that told me that was literally the best birding day of their entire lives. It really was exceptional. I know everyone's talking about it, but I remember sitting in the restaurant having coffee and looking out through the window, and I had 6 wandering albatrosses in my field of view while around Marion. So it was, really unbelievable. And yeah, obviously with these trips, it's difficult to get onto everything. I know very few of us got into things like Kerguelen petrel. They were confirmed. They are photos of those birds. Some of the prions were particularly tricky as well. I know myself, I missed some of the broad-billed prions that were claimed, and slender-billed prion as well. But yeah, you'll probably end up seeing the vast majority of these birds here. And yeah, I mean, like everyone's saying, that day around Marion was really something to behold.
No, it was something else. I mean, I'm just looking here now. I mean, out of the penguins, I mean, obviously, we got macaroni. We got macaroni, I think. We got Eastern Rock Copper. So yeah, I mean, that was just that alone. And I remember it was still crazy because we were talking about it in the guides meetings. We were saying, when are we going to get penguins? When are we going to get penguins? And I remember I was at my guiding station. I was at the back of the ship, on the starboard side at the time. And all of a sudden, I'm busy standing there, and then somebody at the front of the ship on the starboard side as well, all of a sudden screamed king penguins, and like screamed king penguins, and now I'm panicking. And the problem is as the ship is coming through, it's creating these wakes, and the penguins, they chill in these rafts on top of the surface, and they would seem that they then just disappeared as the ship sort of of the ship. So I was really worried they were going to do a disappearing act. I'd seen them previously when I went on the Gullis down to Antarctic waters, but I really wanted to see it. And now, of course, you literally have this mass congregation of birders who have now all flocked to the starboard side of the vessel, wanting to heard this audible penguin. And of course, now you're standing there and you want to show everybody, and then all of a sudden, raft of king penguins. It's amazing. Just going to run through a couple of the stuff that we saw just very quickly. Some of the potentials even for these waters.
Just while we're doing
the diving petrels.
We might get Sue joining us. We might get Sue joining us. Then we'll let her chat, and we'll come back to Marion. So if she comes in, we'll hand over to her, and we'll come back to our chat. So yeah, we'll kind of put a pause. Oh, there's Sue. So cool. Hey, Dr. Sue, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Very well.
Welcome to the Birding Life podcast. Oh, Birding Life, not podcast, my word. Birding Life, the birding show. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Dr. Sue, so Dr. Sue Tonin is the assistant project manager at the Mouse-Free Marion Project, and it's really an honor to have you here tonight. So welcome to the birding show. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Adam. It's an honor to be here.
So I'm sure Daniel and John are also going to have some questions they're going to ask, but I'll kind of jump in first. So one of the big things about the flock to Marion is obviously to allow birders to get up close to Marion, because, you know, we spoke about it earlier when we were on the phone. You know, you can't get onto Marion unless you're part of a conservation project or something. And I can imagine one of the challenges with the project is the fact that, you know, a lot of people have experienced Kruger, for example, or a lot of the things that are maybe going with conservation challenges that are close, but the fact is that a lot of these birds are far, far away. So I can imagine this cruise has a very important role in exposing the greater birding community to this important birding area.
Exactly. I think you've put your finger on it, Adam. Often when we start to talk about the project and we ask people, do they know what an albatross is? Many of them know the concept of an albatross, but they've not ever seen one. But the other thing that is fairly common is that people who've seen albatrosses and spent any time with them, and the few of us who are lucky enough to have been down to Marion, we're forever changed by that experience. So they might be quite far outside the reach of many people, but they are utterly remarkable. And we're thrilled about the flock to Marion. I think the BirdLife team's been working really hard to make it happen for that reason that you've just mentioned. It will bring people closer to albatrosses.
So for those that have never heard, why is this project so important? And, you know, again, I'm going to reiterate and say that, you know, we're talking about an island that's a long, long way away. It, you know, for a lot of South Africans, they would possibly say it has absolutely no connection. A lot of South Africans will never, ever get anywhere close to Marion Island. So why is this project so important?
Well, marine ecosystems, I think we're starting to realize how important they are. There's a general awareness, I think, of of the importance of the oceans. And if you look at a map of the southern hemisphere, but with Antarctica in its center, from the South Pole, if you put the South Pole in the center of the photograph, what's absolutely remarkable is the size of the Southern Ocean and how much of the southern hemisphere is that ocean. And it's an enormous ocean, and it has only a very small scattering of islands that are safe for these birds to breed on. So the islands are crammed with birds and seals that come there because they forage over this enormous ocean. They have just a minute landhold where they can go and breed safely. And the other thing about these birds is that they don't have national borders. So the birds that breed on Marion, as the birders among us will know, they fly off to the coasts of Chile. They fly all the way up the west coast of South America to Mexico. They fly into Australian waters. They circumnavigate the oceans many times. So there's a strong connection between these tiny specks of land, which should be safe breeding havens, and this enormous productive Southern Ocean. And that's the importance of the project, is we need to keep their breeding islands safe, because they do face threats at sea, and because of fishing vessels and plastics. At least we want to try and keep their breeding islands safe.
100%, Sue. And I think, so just for those viewers, firstly, Sue, nice to see you. It's such a pleasure to have you on board. I think for some of the viewers who perhaps might not be familiar with the Mouse-Free Marion Project, just a quick recap to those involved. So the whole purpose behind the previous flock to Marion and now this one is not just to provide us with an incredible birding opportunity, it is also to provide us with an opportunity to raise funds for this incredible project. And what has happened is these breeding islands in the subantarctic, be it Tristan da Cunha, be it Marion Island, unfortunately from many, many years ago have had the introduced or alien house mice introduced to the island itself. And some of you may have actually seen on social media a lot of these images of seabird populations, chicks, albatross chicks, petrel chicks, that have literally been eaten alive by mice. And it's actually quite disturbing seeing the images. But I mean, Sue, maybe you can just expand it for the listeners, the impact that these mice are actually having on these birds. It's not a small problem. It's potentially catastrophic.
Exactly. So a quarter of the world's wandering albatrosses breed on Marion Island, and they've got no defenses against the mice that you've just been talking about, John. Yeah, I know that you were on the first flock, and the birds don't normally have terrestrial predators in their, it's not within their behavioral range. So when a mouse climbs onto them and starts eating them alive, they don't know what to do, and they don't do anything. The general problem of alien invaders on islands is one that also I think a lot of bird watchers are probably becoming more familiar with, especially if you visit islands, because island ecosystems are often simple, very important for biodiversity, and very vulnerable to alien invaders. So for the reasons I've just described, the insects on Marion have no wings and they can't fly away from the mice. And globally, there's a growing awareness of this problem. And our solution is to eradicate the mice using a method that was developed largely by the New Zealanders, but also by many other teams around the world. So it's a very tried and tested tool for getting rid of invasive mice. Brilliant.
And it's like you said, it's of paramount importance, because a lot of these birds are also returning to their natal islands. That's, they are born on those islands, they're returning to those islands, they only know those islands. There's this weird phenomenon built inside of their head to return to their natal islands, and they're essentially, if this mice issue is not sorted out on any of the islands, not just Marion, they're essentially returning to a death trap. So it's quite sad.
It certainly breaks our hearts. So we've been tracking the wandering albatrosses since the 1980s, and the other albatrosses on the island. There are 4 species, and those long-term monitoring colonies, we know those individuals, we know their stories, we know when they lose their partners and find others, and they lose their partners sometimes at sea. We know there's one chick actually in one of our monitoring colonies who was in fact hatched on Crozet, but that's rare. You're absolutely right. Most of them come back to the island where they were hatched, and we've got a team of field researchers on the island who are just remarkable people, and they know the individual birds. 1 or 2 of them have got blue eyes. One blue eye in particular is relatively common, and they're so courageous and so extraordinary. I know I'm anthropomorphizing, but it's utterly remarkable. Someone asked us, how far does a wandering albatross fly before it starts to breed? And we thought, okay, well, they start breeding at about 13, between 9 and 13. They're very long-lived birds. They probably fly about 120,000 kilometers in that first period of their lives, but it's actually impossible to tell because they just fly so far. And the fact that they're long-lived means that any impact on them is also slow to be seen, the effect, but it's also catastrophic for their populations.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, I mean, so you guys are doing such an incredible job. I mean, I wish there were enough thank yous that I could give you and your incredible team and everybody involved with the Mouse-Free Marion Project on behalf of every single bird in this community, because I personally think that every single body should be giving you nothing short of a standing ovation for the work that you're doing, because if it is so important for us to preserve the breeding islands for these birds, because it's ultimately preserving the species. If these birds aren't reproducing and they're not creating next generations, ultimately my children, Dan's children, Adam's children, their children, we're not going to have the privilege of heading out into the ocean and becoming part of that, quote, a select group of people for now having seen an albatross. And it's as Adam was saying earlier, it's an emotional, and people are going to look at us and think, really, you're getting emotional over a bird. It's when you have a bird with an almost 3-meter wingspan coming past you at eye level, just looking at you, having that moment, staring into what feels like your soul, and just realizing that this bird has traveled hundreds and thousands of kilometers in its lifespan. It has traveled to every single corner of the ocean, potentially. It has not worried about passports, about border control, absolutely nothing. It is free, and it simply just flies, and it is absolutely incredible. And Sue, you guys are phenomenal. I mean, Dan, let's quickly, Sue, if you don't mind. I mean, Dan's also joining us as well. I don't know if you perhaps saw Dan, this strapping young gentleman. Will be joining us as well, in all likelihood, on next year's flock to Marion again. Oh. And I mean, Dan, what are you looking forward to? What with the birds and that aside, I mean, what are the other events and stuff that on the ship, birding related stuff that BirdLife South Africa does in order to entertain everybody on board, if the birds and the general birding was not enough already?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think one of the major draw cards as well about these flock at sea events is you get the whole birding community together on one ship. So you're there with friends and very much like-minded people on the ship. So yeah, I mean, from the last one, there was also like a major highlight for me at least, was seeing all these people again and meeting new people. And from BirdLife side, they've got an excellent lecture series on board. So yeah, I mean, you've got this fantastic birding, you're with great people, you've got lectures that you can attend by like really acclaimed speakers on a variety of different topics. But there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think also of great news and importance is that I see Mark Anderson, who's the CEO of BirdLife South Africa. He knows us all quite well, and obviously the entire purpose actually behind this whole episode is generating awareness around flock, because the more of you who come on flock to Marion, the happier you are going to make Sue. Because it's more funds, it's more awareness. And if every single one of the potentially 2,000 odd birders that end up on this vessel in January of next year can walk away and share the word about what is going on and the conservation of seabirds and the importance of seabirds, it is remarkable the butterfly effect that it will have. And conservation through education is of paramount importance, and it's such an incredible opportunity to do so. So yeah, it's all important, and like Dan says, there's incredible things. But where I was going with this is the fact that Peter Harrison, undoubtedly and arguably the world's leading authority on seabirds, is again going to be on the ship. And those of you who will know, Peter himself ended up shedding tears when we first came across the first sighting of Tristan albatross on Flock to Marion last year. I happened to be with him or in and around him at that time. The man was reduced to tears. That is a love and a passion and a devotion to seabirds that I have never seen in anybody else in my lifetime, my meager 29 years of existence. But it was still a remarkable moment, and to be alongside him and another 39 other almost equally enthusiastic, not nearly as knowledgeable, but definitely some of our leaders in seabirding, pelagic birding, and also mammals, cetaceans, oceanic mammals that we will be encountering as well. They are all going to be on board, ready to assist you. So it's an amazing opportunity. But I think for me, the crux of it, as great as the whole experience is, it's the fact that it's all for conservation. And I think that's the most important thing here. Daniel will argue with me because he's actually just going to spend time in the gym. Daniel's claim to fame, Sue, if I might just explain this to you, is the fact that I strongly believe, he's going to deny every second of this, but I strongly believe that Daniel has started a list of pelagic birds seen whilst curling 30 kilograms on the dumbbell machine on any SC vessel. So there's pictures of Daniel in the gym with binoculars. I should have found those.
Absolutely.
I think
That's an elite list.
I think we should do an episode one day of the weirdest place you've seen birds. Like what's the weirdest place you've put together a life list? But just before we still gonna have a little Sue on and Daniel on a little bit more. But I think just before we get to the end of the show, we don't get to the spot. Not that we're finishing right now. We really want to encourage everyone who's watching this. I know our numbers aren't as high tonight. I think a lot of people are away, but this will obviously go onto our YouTube channel. So we encourage you, even if you're watching this afterwards on our YouTube channel, we encourage you support the Mouse-Free Marion Project, a fantastic project. One of the projects as the Birding Life we are really, really proud to have supported and to even going forward to support. Chris is putting the SnapScan code up there now. Obviously, the big win for them is if you are willing to sponsor a hectare, that's 1,000 Rand. I mean, it's not that 1,000 Rand's not that much. But if 1,000 Rand's too much for you, you can also obviously sponsor smaller amounts. So we want to ask everyone who's watching this, we do these webinars 100% free. We'll never charge for these webinars. But one way you can say thank you, one way that you can really show appreciation for the work we are doing is by donating towards these projects. These are projects that we are passionate about. We get people like Sue on because we actually are passionate about with the work that they are doing. And Sue can tell us in a moment what we can do. But just Sue, we just had a chat to the Birding Life team before, and we just want to let you know we have done a couple of fundraisers for the Mouse-Free Marion Project. We also have donated sponsored a hectare before, and some of our team have also sponsored towards hectares. But I had a chat to our team before, and we've decided as the Birding Life, we are going to kick it off and we are going to sponsor another hectare. So we're going to put our money where our mouth is. And if people keep, and just want to say, that's every single person who supports us, who supports our online shop in any way. You make this possible. If we can, we're hoping before flock, we can put a lot more money where our mouth is. And, but for now, we are donating another hectare, and from the Birding Life. So we put our commitment, and hopefully some listeners will, or some viewers will follow suit and do the same. So Sue, I don't know if you want to just tell us this money, and also how can people actually support this project?
Well, I think Adam, you've all been walking the walk, in the sense that it's much of it is about spreading the word about what we're doing, and who knows who will listen to you and who will think about the project and get in touch with us and help us in whatever way they can. We have enormous support from bird clubs and from organizations such as yours, and we're incredibly grateful for that support, because it's all about a love for the creatures that we're conserving. And so I think essentially telling people that you know and asking them to tell people that they know. And Adam had a very good idea about sharing videos on social media, and those kinds of short videos. We've got a video that's probably a little bit long for that, for Instagram, for example. It's about 7 minutes long, but it's on our website. One can pop over and watch it there, and just get in touch with us. And those connections end up becoming really important for us. And there's one thing that sets our conservation project aside. It's the simplicity of our solution. It's not an easy solution. It's very difficult to eradicate all the mice. But if we get it right, it becomes a sustainable and lasting legacy. So essentially, once you've removed the mice, we've seen from other islands how quickly the burrowing petrels, well, not necessarily quickly, but how remarkably the burrowing petrels will rebound. The seabirds and the insects and the plants rebound. So it's a once-off intervention, and it offers such hope. And I think that's the other message perhaps that we would want to give, is just that hope is in short supply, I think, in our world. But there is enormous resilience in our natural systems. And if you can give them a chance to rebound by removing an alien predator, then the results are remarkable.
No, definitely, Sue. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said earlier. I think I just wish that that so many more people knew about the amazing work that you guys are doing. So it's the small donations that we might be able to provide you with might seem insignificant to each of us, but every single person is. And my favorite example is that you may feel like you are only contributing a single drop into the ocean, but if there are hundreds and thousands of you that contribute a single drop, you can create the ocean itself. And that goes to the message of conservation through education. The more people that are educated, the better for the eventual goal and mission here, the conservation mission at heart. So, Sue, you're very right. We are very fortunate to be in a technological age now where we have access at our fingertips on a daily basis. Instead of watching singing and dancing kittens or kittens jumping to cucumbers, we can, which are great videos, just might add. If anybody has not watched a kitten jump in fear away from a cucumber, it's a good laugh. But we have at our fingertips an incredible opportunity to share conservation messages, and it can be a simple story update, it can be a simple post. But we're looking forward to it. I think I'm going to be on the boat. I'm pretty sure Adam's going to be on the boat. Sue, I really hope that you're going to be on the boat. Dan's going to be on the boat as well. So it's going to be incredible. It really, really, really is going to be amazing. And I hope that every one of the listeners here, if you cannot contribute financially at this stage, please just share the message. Share the message. go onto the Mouse-Free Marion Facebook group, go on Facebook page, go onto the Instagram page. There's informative content there which you can share. You can share to your page and you can help people become aware. So I think if that's any message that anybody takes away from here, it is that. So please, everybody, look at joining up. It's a twice in a lifetime opportunity to go down and experience the Southern Oceans on the Marion. Dan, what are you most looking forward to? You are going to be on the boat. I hope so, because I need to start that list alongside you this time.
Don, I would hope so too. It's a busy time of year for me, starting honors next year at the beginning of the year. So provided I can and there's a gap, I will certainly be there. I mean, I'm most excited, obviously, to just get back out there and, like you say, experience that incredible spectacle that you have around Marion. Even just, I don't know. I mean, you briefly touched on it, but just setting sight on those islands was just absolutely incredible. You know, you're looking at this place that so few people ever get to see, and obviously seeing everyone else there, and I mean the whole experience will just be absolutely fantastic. So so much to look forward to, and I can only recommend it to anyone watching right now. If you can, I really think that you should be there. It's going to be fantastic.
So just a few things before we kind of end off tonight, and we've got a big announcement we'll end off with at the end of this before we go offline. But a couple of just maybe, firstly, obviously people, I mean, cost might put it out of reach for some people. But I think if you can make a plan, if there's any way you can, don't be stupid and take your whole credit card and finish. I think use some wisdom. But if you can make a plan, it's really well worth it. But the one thing that people might be concerned with, and for those that have not been on a previous flock, maybe John and Daniel, you can just comment on this. I mean, you've got 2,500 birders on a ship. I mean, isn't it going to be like super crowded? I mean, you're on these decks trying to see these birds. I mean, isn't it just going to be too crowded? You mentioned the guards earlier, but what is it like with the crowds? Is it too much, or is it well organized? Talking to that, because some people, that might put some people off when you think of the amount of people that are going to be on the boats. And you speak about a rarity showing up on one side. I mean, what is the viewability like of the birds and the experience like with all these birders around? Isn't it a bit crowded?
Dan, you can fire away there. I'll chip in.
Okay. No, I mean, from my side, there's really plenty of space on board. I mean, if I remember correctly, the last ship we were on the previous flock, there's 14 decks there. Now, obviously, you don't ideally want to be right at the top. So in terms of getting the best views, you want to try to be a bit lower down. And I mean, you can really shift your positioning around. Some people swear by the bow, others swear by the stern. But no, in terms of space, there's usually plenty of space for everyone to find a spot somewhere. And like I said, you kind of want to be low down, but I don't really think about it too much where you are on the ship. But something else I would like to add, like a major draw card for me about these large ships going out, is the ability to kind of avoid seasickness as well for so many of us. I mean, I'm speaking from myself. I've been on quite a number of small pelagics, and they're always like a really kind of terrible experience for me, actually. I spend most of it hanging over the edge, going up into the ocean. So and I think many of us that do get seasick on these small boats actually avoid that completely on these larger cruises. So at least from my side, that's a major draw card about being on these bigger ships.
Yeah, no, 100%. Dan, I think Adam has covered most of it. If you are worried you are going to miss out on stuff, the chances are unlikely. Okay, there's a reason there's 40 devoted professional guides who are going to be volunteering as guides. Or I say volunteering as guides. Every person of that individual of that 40 compilation of guides is a professional specialist bird guide expert in their own regard. Those are just the dedicated 40 that make the cut, if I want to put it as that. The amount of other extremely experienced birders who are going to be on the vessel far outnumbers the 40 that end up getting selected to wear luminescent jackets. So you're going to be amidst like-minded people, many of which simply are not professional bird guides, who might be, chartered accountants, lawyers. They're simply just not guides, and therefore they're not in a guiding position. But it doesn't mean that they know any less about the things that we're going to be looking at. And that's what you will see very quickly when we're on the vessel, is that everybody works together. Not once on any of the previous flocks have I had any negative. From a guide's perspective, I know that you always sit and you try your best to get every single person onto something at your specific station. We don't stop. For us, this may seem like a great holiday, but we really, really work our backsides off to make sure that the experience for you guys as people joining is going to be the best experience possible. And it is inherently in our nature as professional bird guides to make sure that everybody in the immediate vicinity of us gets onto birds that we're busy looking at, because that is what we do as our profession. Is we need to show everybody the birds that we're busy looking at, because those who miss out ultimately in our mind and internally makes us feel like we haven't succeeded. So it's more of a drive for us. So there is no concern for you to have to worry about it. It's fantastic. There's more than enough deck space. Everybody is nice. Everybody rotates around the guiding stations, and a lot of guides as well start their session off saying, guys and girls, please just allocate yourself 15 minutes at the start, close to the rails, and then slowly but surely after 15 minutes, just rotate around, let somebody behind you slot in and enjoy the view for 15 minutes. If deck space at that specific guiding station might perhaps be an issue. But everybody works together. It's a fantastic opportunity, and no, I really don't know of anybody who missed out on birds because they were on the upper deck or on the lower deck. I know of people who missed birds because they were eating breakfast at the buffet, which was remarkable in its own right. But not people who've missed birds because of being on, too high on a vessel or having people in front of them. Not at all. Not at all.
And then if it does get too busy, you can obviously go up to the gym and sit next to Daniel. He'll point out the birds from the gym. So,
Yes.
yeah, just a couple of comments that came out. Leon Lateghan, I hope I'm saying the name right. Best memory was seeing my first sooty, the one with the wonky leg and that double rainbow. Remember that double rainbow? That was also really, really awesome. Luca Tomlinson asked a question. I'll get back to that now. Debbie Rolfe, wow, I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion from Marion in the boat. Really looking forward to being a part of the 2025 experience. This will be a first for me. Debbie, if you're on the boat, come have a look for me and I will sort you out with a free cap just for watching this webinar. Come and let me know. Say, don't forget, I think John wants a cap. I won't comment why. Yeah, we got a cap for you, John. And then Luca Tomlinson asked a question. Another one of our ambassadors said, this might have been discussed already, but I'm curious to know if anyone knows a certain species breeding on Marion that would have the greatest population rebound and what sort of percentage. So in other words, I think he's saying is, if this project is a success, which of the species would probably see the greatest rebound in terms of numbers? I don't know if you're able to answer that.
I wouldn't maybe be able to answer the species, but the burrowing petrels, especially the ones that breed in winter, have been vulnerable to the mice for decades because they breed underground. So the pterodroma petrels, the grey petrels, like the white-chin petrel, the Procelaria petrel. So those birds that breed underground, you might expect to see a rapid response from them, but we can't predict. But they have been preyed upon by mice for the longest. So we would hope that they would rebound. It doesn't happen in a year or two because they're slow breeding birds, but over a decade, 5, 10, 20 years. And yeah, I can't pick out one particular species. Pete Ryan probably could. Pete Harrison probably could, but.
Yeah, and then just, I think our last question on flock before we make our announcement, which is quite cool, just in terms of, I know you guys mentioned that there's going to be guides on the boat. I know for myself, as much as I can, I want to do a bit of preparation in advance. So, what resources, and just a couple of resources, and you guys might say the same thing, but there might be something else. A lot of you might have had this on the previous one. was the Peter Ryan's old seabird book. Obviously, my camera's a bit weird now, but there's an updated version. You can get your hands on that. It's, Peter Ryan. This is on the Birding Life shop, by the way. Just a quick punt there. And one of the other ones, obviously, was this is the weird thing. Well, this is the seabird book by Peter Harrison, which is really, this is like the Bible of seabird birds. You want to get your hands on this. Just on a side note, you can obviously order this from Lynx Publications. I know BirdLife eThekwini, our local club, and I'm sure other clubs, Daniel, maybe your guys, some of the other clubs might also know about this, are going to be ordering copies in. So if you are a member of BirdLife eThekwini, just to warn you, if you want to order from Lynx, it's great. The book arrives at the airport, and then they say, okay, no, there's sometimes are extra charges that go on to that. So my suggestion is, if you're not a member of a bird, maybe chat to your bird club. If you're not a member of a bird club, join BirdLife eThekwini and order the book through them. They are doing a bulk order, and it'll make it a little bit easier to get your hands on the copy. But are there any other apps or books or resources that you would recommend that people get their hands on in the lead up to the Flock to Marion Cruise, just to help them prepare themselves?
From my side, I would definitely recommend any of the resources that BirdLife South Africa puts out. So I know that prior to the last flock, BirdLife South Africa obviously employed the services and the expertise of the likes of Peter Ryan, our very own local born and bred seabird expert, who is up there with Peter Harrison. Man is incredible, and he of course is the author of that book. But they obviously asked him to put together a couple of sort of identification cards, which you could essentially go through and prep yourselves insofar as the basic idea of some of the more common birds that we might encounter were concerned. Obviously, the likes of Fancy Peacock as well also put out informative sort of key cards in that pre the last flock. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for any resources that BirdLife South Africa is going to essentially endorse and then share. And they'll do that on the dedicated Flock to Marion Again 2025 Facebook group. So head over to the group, join the group. The stuff will be posted there. Obviously, those two books that you mentioned, Adam, Peter Harrison's book is the Bible. There's another book which I personally have used when I've gone into the Southern Oceans called A Complete Guide to Antarctic Wildlife by Hadaram Shirahe. That, to me, is right up there with Peter Harrison's book. And I spend many hours getting lost amongst the pages of that book. Obviously, it is cetaceans, so it's not just birds, but the information on everything Antarctic related and is there within the pages. And although we're not heading to Antarctica, it essentially covers everything from a Southern Oceans perspective, which what makes it a fantastic resource. It's definitely just some additional things from my side. I don't know if Dan has anything further to add to it.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with what you mentioned there, John. I also think something that's important to remember is so much of seabirding is just kind of experience in the field as well. I mean, you'll find when you get there on the first day, in all these petrels and pryons like darting past, you've kind of got no idea what you're looking at. And then as you slowly get your eye in and you begin to figure out what's what, by day 4, for example, you have a much better idea of what's going on. You begin to learn the kind of distinctive flight patterns that these different species have. So I think it's great. You prepare as much as you can beforehand, and it's important to remember that when you get there, you're going to learn so much as well. Just general in the field experience. I also I'm a big fan of looking at photographs of species as well. And there's this other fantastic book called Oceanic Birds of the World, and got this array of fantastic photographs of all the oceanic birds of the world. So I personally use that book quite a bit as well. But yeah, otherwise pretty much all on board with what you mentioned, John.
Adam, sorry, just not to belabor the point here, but Dan touched on a really good thing there. And just briefly, if you have the opportunity, everybody, please try get onto a couple of pelagics between now and January. Be it Durban, be it Cape Town. My suggestion, go to Cape Town. It's going to give you, although we're departing from Durban to Marion and coming back to Durban, going out into the Cape waters is going to give you the best chance of connecting with the most amount of pelagic species. Okay, it's unfortunate that Durban comes second best in pelagic regard. It turns up megas, but not nearly the same amount of numbers as Cape Town. Have a look at Cape Town pelagics. Have a look at Zest for Birds. obviously run by Trevor Hardacre, Cape Town Pelagics, a sub-company of Birding Africa, and get onto a pelagic, and you'll very quickly realize how incredible it is, and you will, in that pelagic, come to grips with a lot of the more common stuff that we will find, and like Dan says, gives you just that little bit extra in feeling comfortable with some of the more common stuff that we're going to see. But yeah, I think we've given the viewers more than enough resources to start delving into, Adam.
So just in terms of that, if there is something you'd like us to chat about in the lead up, maybe we can just, maybe every episode just do something smaller around flock, not as intensive as this, and to talk about different resources and maybe cover a couple of the species. Maybe we can get someone to talk about wandering versus Tristan and really make that interesting conversation. Be quite interesting, but try and give you if there's anything we can do to help. And we not just want to say this as a disclaimer. We are not here to take the place of BirdLife South Africa. We want to say that we support BirdLife South Africa, and check out the like John said, check out the resources they're putting out. They're going to put us some fantastic stuff. But if we can partner and showcase the birds you could see, the reason we're doing this is not to take the place, but we're hoping to get more of you to book onto this, because the more of you go onto this, the more of you support BirdLife South Africa, the more of you that support the important work that the Mouse-Free Marion Project is doing. So we're going to hear a lot about the flock to Marion in the next, I don't know, 7 or so months. But just if you haven't booked, go and just to let you know, if you're a Conservation League member, you can book from Monday. That's 3,000 Rand plus your membership. Make sure that happens. You can start booking on Monday already. Make sure you get the best cabins possible. If not, I think a week or two after that, BirdLife South Africa members can also start booking. So make sure you're a BirdLife South Africa member, not just to book, but also to support the important work that they are doing. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing a lot. But just a quick, Sue, I want to let you, just before I say this, is anything you'd like to say as your final words, and we'll make a quick announcement, then we are finished for tonight. Anything you want to say as your final words?
Just thank you. Thank you all for giving us a little bit of airtime, and for listening, and for caring, and for spreading the word.
Oh, that's fantastic. But we encourage you, go support the important work that the Mouse-Free Marion Project doing. Thanks, Sue. We appreciate your time. Thank you for being part of tonight. We'll let you go if you want to go now. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll chat a lot more before then. We even chat to some more people from Mouse-Free Marion. And hopefully before next year, before we leave in flock, we're about to say that this webinar has raised lots and lots of money for you guys. So I know all of us on this webinar, including the team behind the scenes, is something we'd love to see. So support Mouse-Free Marion. Thanks, Sue. Really appreciate your time, mate. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you all. And have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. Okay, so just really quickly, thanks, Sue, for being on. We're going to make a quick announcement. So this doesn't affect John as much, but he's gonna look at us and get jealous anyway. So we've been saying on social media, we've had a big announcement that is coming up. And the birding life, quite exciting. I mean, John, you've been part of the journey from the beginning. This is why you get a cap. Daniel, you were one of our first guests. I've got to know you through this. And this is what's been cool about doing this. Started in April 2020. So this is kind of like probably almost an anniversary for the birding life. How cool is that? We'll try to do something in April, make it a big deal. But actually quite cool. This is actually happening in April. How cool is that? So it's nearly 4 or 5 years since we really kicked off the podcast, the webinar, and it's been exciting. When we first started off, there were a lot of people that said it wasn't going to work, and it's been exciting to see. I mean, I've had Peter Harrison on my podcast. I mean, that's like insane. So Peter Harrison on your podcast had Hollywood movie directors, cricket players, and it's been, who knew where we would have got. But we really have been exciting for the growth, and thank you for everyone that supported the birding life. But we are proud to announce that from the 6th to the 16th of April, we are going on our first African birding trip as the Birding Life. And we are partnering with the Malawi Department of Tourism and Malawian Airlines, plus a whole lot of accommodation venues. And we're going to be visiting the heart of Africa. We are going to be visiting Malawi. Now, Malawi, as we've been doing research on this country, it's one of those countries that often is overshadowed by countries like Uganda and Zambia and a lot of these countries. But as we started to look into the birding, this country has 680 odd species, only one true endemic, which might not be an endemic going forward. Comes our cool logo designed by Chris. And The yellow, I always remember get this right. The yellow-throated apellis is the one true endemic in Malawi. I think it's found in a place called Zomba Mountain, but we're going to be going all over 6th to the 16th of April. We're going to be partnering with Malawi Department of Tourism and Malawian Airlines, visiting 10 days in the country. We're going to be visiting Zilanyama, which apparently is rated, some would say, I don't know if you know, guys, is the best Mayomba birding in the world. Sterling's woodpecker, if you go into a lot of the books, that's the easiest place to get Sterling's woodpecker, and a whole lot of other species. Fantastic. We're heading from there to blue zebra. I'm really holding thumbs. Blue zebra, if you don't know, it's on a little island in Lake Malawi. African pitta actually nest at blue zebra, and they normally, sometimes they nest into around April. If I'm getting that wrong, forgive me, but what read somewhere that on that Pacific place. So holding thumbs, but a really amazing place. We're heading there to Lawanda National Park and do some fantastic birding. I heard they say Bo must be eater. The guys, I think he said he'll eat his socks or something if we don't get it. So if we don't get it, we'll have him live on the webinar eating his socks. But he said it's almost a guaranteed bird, and Bo must be eater, very sought after species. And then heading to Elephant Marsh. Now, Elephant Marsh, Richard Fleck actually visited there a few months ago, and he's been all over. He's been to Okavangos and all these marshes around, and he actually says, in terms of what Elephant Marsh and what it has around offers, it's literally the best birding of that type he's been to anywhere in the world. And we're really looking forward to showcasing. And what's exciting is we can have you can be part of the journey. We'll obviously be showcasing on Instagram every day. We'll also have a WhatsApp group set up, and everyone can basically come on, and you'll be able to subscribe. We'll give you, if you're part of the WhatsApp group, we'll get a lot more information. We're going to be going there. Yande Verster is also getting along as our photographer. Fantastic photographer. I mean, you guys will know he's one of the best photographers in South Africa. I'm not just saying, we always say the best young photographer, but he's actually one of the best photographers in South Africa. And the whole point of this is to actually go, not just to do a tour, but to showcase this fantastic country to the world. And the people, it's one of the friendliest nations in the world. And we really are looking forward to that. So, yeah, follow along on the journey. And I think end of April, we'll be talking all about Malawi birds and showing some photos of the birds we got to see and some of the destinations we went to. So really looking forward to that. And I don't know how much you guys know about Malawi birding. You guys know anything about Malawi birding?
I haven't been lucky enough to go, Adam. So, yeah, very, very envious. Lots of reading on the destination, but hopefully I'll get there one day. You guys are going to have a blast. I can't wait to see what you guys experience that side.
Yeah, I mean, likewise. I think it's an awesome place. I've looked into it quite a bit. I'm very keen to consider a trip there sometime. As you said, only one endemic, but quite a few species that are very difficult to get elsewhere, or they spill into places like northern Mozambique, which are pretty tricky areas to access. So perhaps not that many endemics, but a number of species that you kind of really have to go to Malawi to see. So yeah, I'm extremely jealous. It sounds fantastic. I really can't wait to see the updates.
Especially your species from northern Mozambique, and a lot of them are found in Malawi, and a lot of those, a lot of places in northern Mozambique are not really places you want to be going to. So again, that's what I've learned. So as I've done the research, I'm almost surprised that it's not a more popular birding destination, because a lot of the guys say, even the Bird Finder, they talk about the fact that a lot of the species can be found other places. Just what you were saying now, Daniel, it's easier to get them in Malawi. And also you're in a country that's safe. It's a country there's not civil wars happening and all sorts of violence. Really looking forward to it. And coming back, I'm really a bit scared with all the birds we can encounter, learning all these species, but looking forward to it. And yeah, we're looking forward to coming back and sharing with everybody what we got. But we will share the WhatsApp group coming up soon, and you'll be able to subscribe to the WhatsApp group, and you'll be able to be a part of that. We won't spam you. We'll just send you really cool stuff. Yeah, there's someone, Debbie Rolfe, asked who can book from Monday, and I think we answered that. You have to be a Conservation League member, so it's 3,000 Rand. Make that happen. Leon Lotchka and join. Just the landscapes and the lakes are worth going there. Throw in the difficult bird species, and it's an amazing trip. So I think that's it for tonight. It's been great having a chat to Daniel. Always good. We need to get you back again, get you on the podcast also. John, always good to have you on the show. Famous Oak does all sorts of crazy stuff. It's good to have you. Just saying, go if you're not following John, what's your Instagram? I know you started some really, really cool stuff. I know you started Ivor, we'll pop the WhatsApp group on our social soon. your Instagram. I know you started something quite recently where you started sharing some facts and that type of thing. What is your Instagram? I really recommend people follow you. And Daniel, you can also give a quick shout out for your Instagram and get people to follow you, and they can check your gym photos and everything. So yeah.
I don't think those photos are on Instagram, Dan.
Well, they could. No. They, if you can get them, they could be.
Somewhere else, don't worry.
No. My Instagram handle for those interested at Untamed Birding. So yeah, thank you so much for everybody who has tuned in this evening. If you follow me, thank you so much. I am live on Instagram at the moment, actually. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Everybody's taking the time to tune in. Dan, give yourself a punt as well. The Instagram.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thanks, guys. Well, I aspire to have an Instagram like John. But yeah, anyway, you can check me on Instagram. I'm Daniel Engelbrecht 101 on Instagram. I haven't been posting much lately, but yeah, I'll get some tips from John to get myself up and running.
That would be awesome, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it. Keep an eye on the socials. We'll give you updates on all this. You can follow us for the Malawi trip. But thanks, guys, for being here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I know some of the people are away, and if you watch us on YouTube afterwards, share it, let people know about it. It really helps us get the news out there. We'll also pop a link in YouTube for the Mouse-Free Marion Project and just different links, things we've shared in the show. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Appreciate your time.